Hi YouTube, if you can't tell, it is extremely windy to the point where it's actually blowing the bike over. Let's see how this little bike does off-road. 2 days ago I believe I took it off-road in a couple local trails that I know of that are pretty close to the house, but today I decided to go to Medicine Bow and test it out against some of the trails that I'm a little bit familiar with. I just didn't expect for the wind to be so crazy. So that took me by surprise. I just want to do one trail that I'm pretty familiar with, and I just want to see how it does. I can already tell in comparison to the Africa Twin that obviously it has a lot less suspension trouble, so it tends to bottom out quicker and faster. So with the big ol' Africa, I could actually take it. I didn't necessarily have to slow down for a lot of the ruts, potholes, big holes. But with this one, you have to choose the line a little bit better. But regardless, it's still doing what it's supposed to do. I'm really hoping the wind dies down a little bit, or the closer I get to the mountains, it'll be a little bit less. So far I know the trail's a little bit mild, but it feels pretty good. The bike feels nimble, a lot more nimble than the Africa Twin, and I feel like I can choose a line a little bit better. And these are basically street tires. So that in and of itself is actually pretty nice. I'm not gonna lie though, I do miss the power of the big old Africa Twin. And I heard news of the new one that's coming out, and it does look nice, but I'd rather have less power but less weight than more power and more weight. But that's not taken away from the Africa Twin, because it's a great bike, and in the right hands it can do awesome things. But for me, for what I do, for the type of riding that I do, it wasn't exactly what I needed. So gosh, this bike is so good. It's nimble. If I'm on top of it, I feel like I can just choose whatever line I need, and just by a quick switch, see, it just moves, and I love that. It feels good. It'll be so much better once I have some crash protection. So first impressions is that the Versys off-road is very capable. Very, very capable. And the positives are his nimbleness. You really can feel that almost 200 pounds less of weight. And that makes a huge difference. It gives you more confidence, because one of the things I noticed with the Africa Twin is that I was somewhat afraid to take it. I was somewhat afraid to take it by myself, because there were times where, well, you saw that. That's, I would say, one of the negatives of the Versys is that the ground clearance is limited. I would have made that with the Africa Twin no problem, but with this one I couldn't. Good thing for me is that I installed a crash plate, or I should say a skid plate, so I'm hoping that took the the brunt of it. Let's give it a once over. Oh yeah. Well, it seems to be okay. I have to learn to pick my lines a little bit better so I don't abuse the skid plate. So the positives, obviously the weight savings is incredible. You definitely feel more nimble and are able to take better lines and just generally more control over the motorcycle, which is crucial when you're off-roading. That in turn gives you a little bit more confidence, and next thing you know, you're tackling roads that you were never able to do it before. Another positive is ease of useness. I should say the ease, it's easy factor, if that makes sense. And by that I mean it's easy on the wallet, it's a simple motor, parts are available pretty much everywhere. Parts are cheap. Like for instance, that exhaust, I paid less than, I believe it was less than $75 shipped. That skid plate, I paid less than $100 shipped. Things like that. For the Africa Twin, everything was so expensive. So, as far as negatives, the biggest thing that comes to mind is the suspension, the limited ground clearance, and the suspension travel, if that makes sense. Especially coming from the big old Africa Twin, I felt like I could go over anything. But with this one, you're somewhat limited. It feels like it bottoms out relatively quickly, and as you saw before, it has limited ground clearance, so you have to pick your lines a little bit better than the average guy. Another negative that you can think of is the lack of power. So for off-road applications, it's not a huge deal, honestly. I don't know why anybody would want over, say, I believe the Africa Twin put in like 80-ish horsepower to the road or to the wheel. I don't know why anybody would want anything more than that. But since this is a dual sport bike, you do end up using the highways and things like that. So this bike is more than capable of utilizing the highways without a problem. The only thing is that you're gonna have to rev it to the moon. To go about 75, you're probably around 8,000 or 9,000 RPM. But I can tell you, if you're thinking about buying this bike, do it. Do it. It's an amazing buy, especially used. I bought this because I traded in my big old Africa Twin on this bike in a little Z125 because I'm planning on learning how to do wheelies, and I figured what's better than a little Z125. But if I didn't have to trade it in, I would have bought this bike used for sure. You can probably find a good example for anywhere around $42,000 to $5,000 with some good mods. And for the price, it's hard to beat it. It really is. I was also thinking about the Royal Enfield Himalayan, and I test rode that bike, and honestly, it's actually a pretty decent bike. It only has 5 gears, which is okay, but it was, I didn't take it off-road, but I believe it would have done just fine. I believe that would have been sufficient on the highway, and it's got a good price, good asking price, but for the money, I thought this would be better. Just honestly, because you can just rev it to the moon. And as cliche as it sounds, it is way funner to ride a small bike fast, or I should say ride a slow bike fast, than it is to ride a fast bike slow. So wrapping it up, if you're thinking about buying this bike, do it. It is more than enough to tackle most off-road trails for what they are. You'll have lots of fun, and it can do all that you ask of it. So with that in mind, thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe the videos. Let me know what I can do better. I'm still trying to learn how to do this YouTube thing. And thanks for watching.